I grew up in Kolkata, India, in a home that was filled with tradition, endless cups of tea, and a hum of ambition. When I was 5 years old, my grandfather took me into his law chamber. It was a sanctum of power, with powerful lawyers sitting around discussing policy and reading from briefs tied in red rope. One of them stood up and asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I stood up a little taller. No one had asked me that before. And I said, "I want to be a lawyer, just like my grandfather." And he smiled over his glasses, looked at me, tousled my hair, and said, "Oh no, that's not women's work." I didn't argue, but something in me lit a fire, an ember that has never gone out since then. I saw that same pattern repeat itself over and over again. When I volunteered at Mother Teresa's orphanage at age 12, the children that were left at our door were all girls. And in my own home, sitting around the dining table, there we were, my parents and 3 girls, no boys. I was the strike 3 daughter. In a society that valued its legacy in male heirs. In that moment in time, I didn't have the language. I didn't know about gender inequality. I didn't know about patriarchy. But I had that one question: why are girls valued less than boys? And that was a reality I didn't want to have to rule my life. Many, many years later, I left for college to go to Smith in Northampton, Massachusetts. Not with my parents' blessing, nor their checkbook, but because an anonymous donor put a scholarship in place that paid for my education. That was my first brush with radical generosity and philanthropy. The fact that she did not put a scholarship in place as an act of charity, but as an investment in my future. And from there, it told me that money can often give you the choice to make a decision. And with that knowledge in hand, after I graduated, I went to work in investment banking to figure out how women and money could actually interact. And there, I learned a powerful lesson. I learned that money can help you make choices, but it's stymied in the face of a system that says you're less than others. So at the bank, where I stayed for a number of years, my colleagues felt it was fine to comment on my legs or how I looked or how I dressed instead of talking about the spreadsheets that we were working on. An associate who I had painstakingly trained once offered me $1,000 to sleep with him because he thought I was really exotic. So that was the kind of impunity that men spoke with. HR looked the other way, and I realized it wasn't just a conversation that was being had. It was a system that was allowing it. And that's when I decided I was going to flip the script. You know the saying, when you teach a woman to fish? Well, I decided at that point, fishing wasn't just enough. We had to teach the women to own the whole goddamn pond. The patriarchy isn't winning because it's so brilliant. It's actually because it's engineered with laws that help to promote discrimination. In 17 countries, men can still prohibit their wives from working. In 76 countries, women are not allowed to inherit equally. And in 95 countries, it is still not prohibited from giving women equal pay for equal work. Inequality has been legislated and normalized. And so, if inequality has an infrastructure, equality needs one too. Laws that protect, systems that include, and structures that are built not just for men, but for women and for the progress of society. That's when I decided to flip the script. And that's when I made the decision to join Equality Now, to center myself in the very thing that I was told I shouldn't be doing, changing the laws for women and girls. Over the last 30 years, we have changed 133 laws around the world. And we see the power of what that can do. Thank you. When a country bans child marriage, girls can be educated, can be healthier, make good choices for them and their families. When laws are built to allow women to inherit, they can be economically stable and write their own future. And when laws that talk about sexual violence center themselves in the voices of survivors, justice can be served and everybody can heal, not just the survivor, but also society. Here's what the law does. It promotes the infrastructure of equality. So let's reframe the legal systems as infrastructure that we need to build our societies. So here I am, the strike 3 girl, being told that I couldn't work in the law. And that's what gives me great joy. That's the defiance in me that says, you can do it, and you will do it. This is where my Wall Street education comes in. Let's look at the math. The World Bank, who's here today, tells us that if men and women were offered the same opportunities to work and contribute to society, the global GDP would rise by $10 trillion. $10 trillion. Think about what that can do. It can educate every single girl in the world. It can power every village in every corner of this earth. And it can feed every hungry mouth out there. Let's take a minute to absorb that. Because when the law unlocks the potential of women, the value of humanity doubles. But we don't really have time to sit around and think about these things. We need to act upon them urgently. In this room here today, as I look around, I see many familiar faces, and we have heard from so many incredible men and women alike who are united in the mission to create a more fair and just world. We have the power in this room. Think about the networks we have. Think about the levers we can unlock. Every single one of us can go out there and change every single law that discriminates against a fairer society. So the question is, why aren't we doing it? To wrap up my story, when my grandfather died, do you know what he left me? He left me his law library. I don't know if that was an act of contrition or an act of hope. But I share with you today that hope, that ember that has stayed alive in me all these years from that single sentence that he said to me. And I encourage you to think about how we act fast, urgently, in solidarity, and together, to unlock the potential of the law, to make sure they are right for a just society, and to make sure they're implemented. Because we have the power to do this. And when we do this, the next generation will never ask the question, why is a woman valued less? Because that question in their lifetime will no longer be relevant. Thank you.